Greetings. This is about COVID-19, the psych warfare aspect. The psych warfare aspect, COVID-19 is a warning about the health and the environment. The psych warfare aspect. I'm going to go through them first, then I'm going to explain them a little bit. I'm going to go through them first. Denial. Of course, in denial, if there are psych conditions, denial is one of the main and first ones. Apathy and apolitical lethargy, the COVID fatigue, toxic and entangled, narcissistic, the inner turmoil and unresolved conflicts of cognitive dissonance. We actually call it cognitive dissonance 19. Anxiety junkies and the lack of worship. The psych warfare, COVID-19 is a warning for the health and the environment. People are in denial that there's even a psych war. We've seen an article where the lady talks about the Midwest being in a denial. But the denial of the psych war. People are also saying that they're unapologetic, meaning they did something wrong, but then they're not sorry. So they're not wanting to admit that they're wrong. So we got a bunch of people not wanting to admit there's a problem, not wanting to admit there's something wrong. Psychological warfare, psychological conditions, COVID-19. Another one is COVID fatigue, or the like 10 years of apathy, 10 years of apolitical type behavior. 10 years of that apolitical behavior has led to that COVID fatigue. Like right now we're in COVID fatigue. People do not want to be resilient. People must remain resilient. And they're fatigued and don't want to have the resilience. Psychological warfare, psych issues. Sloth. Sloth is refusing to make an effort. And this is in the COVID fatigue. The fact that people are anti-productionary. Anti-productionary, and the fact that we are just simply in a rut. We are just simply in a rut. Psychological condition, psych warfare, COVID-19 is a warning. Toxic and entangled. Toxic is abusive and unsupportive. Toxic is an emotionally unhealthy relationship. We have a lot of these. We're beginning to use the word toxic. We also have entangled, which is basically people are in each other's business. You're in other people's business, and people are snitchy and gossipy about it. So you have all of these interpersonal conflicts. Toxic and entangled. Psych warfare, COVID-19. It's a warning about the health in our environment. Next is narcissistic. Narcissistic is a dangerous form of being self-centered. One of the things about the self-centered thing that we have people arguing in their head of how right they are about everything. Like you narcissistic people, you're right about everything in your head. So I want you to prove it. I want you to show it. I want you to materialize your right mind with your own personal right actions. We're rugged individuals, so definitely a narcissistic person would be able to do that, use it to their advantage. We used to have something called I'm assertive and not aggressive. I'm assertive and not aggressive. Then we used to say we were confident and not arrogant. It was better to be assertive and confident than to be arrogant and aggressive. We have now, it seems, with narcissism, we have an arrogant, alpha, rugged individual. Like, then we have a dunce alpha male. We have a dunce alpha male who is arrogant and narcissistic. We have 10 years of decay of that. Next, we have inner turmoil. And before we go to that, I want to talk about some of the 10 years of decay with the apolitical behavior. When we look at the fact that Rodney King was beaten, he was a victim of police brutality. He was beaten and got $65 million because he was hit 65 times. So he got hit. He got $65 million for being beaten. We have now today people being actually killed, and someone got $7 million. And that's a white person who was had a broom in their own backyard. White person had a broom in their own backyard and got killed by the police and got $7 million. So that decade of decay, that just wanted to bring that up about some of the fatigue and the rut that we're in. Inner turmoil, unresolved conflict and frustration. Cognitive dissonance 19. Cognitive dissonance 19. And cognitive dissonance is when a person holds a contradictory belief, idea, or value, and it's typically expressed as psychological stress. So people have these contradictions in their head, becoming psychological stress, unresolved conflicts and frustrations around your beliefs, ideas, and value. Your value, right? Your value and your values. The contradictions with that is calling the cognitive dissonance. I'm dissing your cognitive myself because you have some beliefs and ideas that you are having a holding pattern on. Next is anxiety junkies. And these anxiety junkies, geek monsters, the craving that we know we have, the thirst that we have, nervousness, the hurry up to go barely anywhere, being jumpy, amped, stressy, and what people call turned up. These anxiety junkies, COVID-19 is a warning, health and environment, psych war. People get to feeling empty when they don't have this anxiety. When that anxiety leaves, or when there's no conflict or whack turmoil to be in, the anxiety junkies end up feeling empty. The anxiety, also the necessity of pleasure, not being satisfied with quality of pleasure, only bland quantity. And we can see customer satisfaction depreciation already. We can see customer satisfaction depreciation already. Psych warfare COVID-19 is a warning to health and environment. The anxiety junkies. Next is lack of worship or lack of worship. The lack of having higher guiding principles. Higher guiding principles. Not having laws, mores, or values. You know, I call it the narrow-mindedness of self. Is a psych problem. You don't have a worship, what would you be floating on? You know, Jesus walked on water, but he also did go on a boat. Most of us are not Jesus and able to walk on water, so we need a guiding principle. We need a worship, somewhere that we stay afloat or has our weaponry, things of that nature. But denial, being unapologetic. Psych war COVID-19 is a warning, health and environment. 10 years of apathy, lethargy, sloth, and anti-productionary has landed us in a rut. And then we're also in that rut, but we're not staying resilient in the COVID fight, COVID fatigue. Toxic and entangled, being in abusive and unsupported relationships, and entangled just being like we were told to avoid crowded, avoid congestion, and these type of things. And that entanglement, those personal relationships you want all jumbled on top of each other, is an issue. Narcissistic and self-centered. That narcissism that's coming about, bringing about these dunce people. These dunce people who are arrogant and narcissistic instead of confident and assertive. Inner turmoil with cognitive dissonance 19. Cognitive dissonance 19. And getting rid of and resolving these inconsistencies in beliefs, ideas, values, thoughts, our attitudes, the way we make decisions. These decision processes and things must be resolved. We can't let that turmoil be the cognitive dissonance that it becomes. As far as some cognitive dissonance could be good, these are not good cognitive dissonance. You can use, obviously, these contradictions or inconsistencies to your advantage, and most times, you know, it is problems, and you can't. Anxiety junkies, geek monsters, as in you couldn't be able to use certain types of inconsistencies to your advantage. Anxiety junkies, geek monsters, cravings, the thirstiness, the nervousness, these anxieties for pleasure that we're not getting, feeling empty with the pleasures or empty when you're not turned up. These anxiety junkies, psych warfare, COVID-19 is a warning, health and environment, and the lack of worship. The lack of having a higher guiding principle can only give a person narrow-mindedness, can only have you in a narrow-mindedness self. There will be a psych warfare. COVID-19 is a warning for the health and the environment. Let's get out of COVID-19.